Shalom Akim, Shalom. First and foremost, I think about praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashim Hashai, Bashim Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us truth. And salutations to sincere Akim and Aqua that name listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai, and back in here with another quick lesson. And for today's lesson, I'm just going to be going through these two topics that I was just thinking about earlier today: high value man and selflessness, right? So, and really and truly, what inspired this lesson was I was listening to another brother's lesson in regards to um, the worth of men, and I guess I just wanted to also add to what he was saying, because he brought up the point about being a so-called high value man is selfless, right? And I thought that really resonated and stuck with me, right? And being in service to something that is bigger than yourself, and putting yourself, you're going to be in situations where you put yourself last. You don't always put yourself, first. You're forced to be essentially considerate of those who are dependent on you, right? So, so that being said, let me get, okay, here's what I'll do. I want to get the word selflessness, right? So let's just define that first. So here in the etymology, it says selfless, having no regard to self, devoted to others' welfare or interest, and not one's own. Let's see if there's any more on that. So actually, that's fairly straightforward, because it's outlining, a person's, has a very strong duty to actually, be in service of, to something or someone who's bigger than themselves, right? So, as Israelite men, we are in service of, or in service to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? And that is the key point I wanted to essentially bring out here, and understanding that it's a very selfless duty, right? So let me start off with this scripture here. So just bear with me. I'm kind of having a little sniffles right now, but Lord will, as always, it's edifying and you can hear me, right? Despite the noise in the background. So let's get First Peter chapter 5, and it reads, this is verse 8, and it says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil as a roaring lion walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. But whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world." And one of the reasons I wanted to bring this out is because, sometimes, during in the midst of, even in the midst of our afflictions, we get down on ourselves, right? And we get, because whatever situations that we may be going through. But I'm really, in hopes that this lesson would not only be edifying, but also to boost your morale in understanding you are of a person of tremendous value, right? And whatever that measure might be, right? Because when Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 12, he breaks down the different orders of operations, right? And when you actually equate that to your human body, for example, like when you think about your eye, and when you think about the eye, let's just use the eye and let's just use the heart as an example. Now, both of these particular both of these particular body parts, they play a very important role for the functioning, the daily functioning of the body. Now, one is smaller than the other, and two, one has a little bit more I guess you can say responsibility than the other, right? Because you can't function without a heart, but you can still function without an eye. It doesn't make the eye less important. That's the point I'm really trying to bring out, right? The eye is still important, just like your pinky toe is still very important. So whether in the ministry, let's just equate that to the ministry, right? And we go about our daily lives, right? When we live out our day to day, so to speak, we are in service of to something that is a bigger than us, and two, the objective is also remembering that we still play an important role, regardless if we're doing something as holding up a sign, whether it's at camp or whatever it is, or we have a more tremendous amount of responsibility as an elder or as a bishop. Our apostles, they've been laboring for over 20, 30 years, right? They still each all play an important role within the ministry, right? And so I just wanted to bring this out to actually boost your morale, because I know sometimes, we're going through different hell and affliction, and, Satan's trying to make us doubt, he's trying to make us, not, make us feel like less valuable, and distract us and make us feel like that we're less worthy, than than we are. Right? The scriptures talk about in Wisdom of Solomon that the earthly tabernacle presseth down the soul and weigheth down the mind, right? And so this is part of the consequences of being in this flesh. But when you look at it spiritually, when we do get chastised and these sorts of things, the Lord, as according to Hebrews, he deals with us as sons, right? So let's get, oh man, I rambled on that one. Goodness. Let's get First Corinthians, and then I'll jump to the story. Okay, First Corinthians chapter 1, verse 26, and it reads, "For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But Yahweh hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And Yahweh hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. And the base things of the world, the things which are despised, hath the Most High Yahweh chosen. Yea, the things which are not, to bring to naught, things that are," right? And this is the way the Lord chooses. So we're not, of people of what's it called? We wear shiny suits, with perfect lineups. Paul says when I came to you in the next chapter, he said, "I came to you not with excellency of speech," right? But you saw the works that for example, Paul, as an example, did, right? And it was something that was very, very important, right? After Yahushai, gave up the ghost, right? And when you read through the book of Acts, the many ventures that he went through, he was exemplifying the characteristics of someone who is selfless, right? And I'm also going to bring out an example of this exemplified by the Lord and Savior Yahushai HaMashiach, right? So let me get give me 1 second. Okay, this is Luke chapter 22, verse 24. I'll start at verse 24, and it says, "Who is the greatest?" I'm reading an NLT, so just bear with me on this. And it says, "Then they began to argue amongst themselves about who would be the greatest among them. Yahushua told them," Yahushua speaking, "in this world the kings and great men lord it over people, yet they are called friends of the people. verse 26. But among you it will be different. Those who are the greatest among you should take the lowest rank, and the leader should be like a servant. Verse 27. Who is more important, the one who sits at the table or the one who serves? The one who sits at the table, of course, but not here. For I am among you as the one who serves, right? So, Yahushua actually did exemplify that, because I think there was another chapter in, I believe it's in St. John the 13th, where he washed the disciples' feet, and, and it's just the dynamic and the dialogue that he's having with his disciples. Like he's saying, like, okay, you call me master and you call me Lord, right? Yahushua actually exemplified, being that high value man and being in a very selfless, exemplifying a very selfless character, because you're someone who's A, putting yourself last, and B, you're being in service of to people who are around you. So in Yahushua's case, it would be the disciples, right? In our personal cases, it would be to, to the ministry. It would be to, whether it's at your job, for example, you are an integral part to the workings of your different environments which you partake in, right? you know but most importantly, in the ministry, we all have our specific role and things that we can add, essentially, right? So that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about and bring this out, because a person who is of high value, they have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge that can be in service to those who are around them. That is what makes them high value, right? A person who is a person who is low value doesn't add anything to those around them. They're kind of like parasites, essentially, right? So this is just to exemplify and see this well played out through the scriptures, the way the Lord chooses. The Lord chooses and deals with the lowly, but remembering that those men still had value despite their positions, and even despite their afflictions as well, right? So I just want to bring that out, but hopefully this is all adding together and making sense. Let's get I'm gonna get two more. Okay, this is Proverbs chapter 22 verse 29, and it reads, "Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men," right? And one of the character traits of someone who is of high value is a person who is, constantly diligent. We're constantly, watching. We're constantly studying. We're constantly, going through, whether it's breakdowns and stories, and we're sharpening ourselves, and when we spend time around, our brethren, our brothers, we sharpen each other. Like the scriptures say, iron sharpeneth iron, right? And it keeps us going, it keeps us motivated, it keeps the fire burning, essentially, right? So a high value man as well. That's another thing. He also has he's also surrounded by people who are making him better in the spirit, right? And that's the same concept that a lot of these manosphere men have in the world. There's a saying in the world that your net worth kind of determines your net work determines your net worth. That's what they like to say, right? So imagine the spiritual net worth of when you actually add up all the brothers in Great Millstone, for example, right? So let me just get this quick example right? And I'll close it off there. So just bear with me 1 second. Okay, this is Genesis chapter 41. I want to start at verse 8. I want to jump around a little bit. So it says, the next morning Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dreams. So he called the magicians and the wise men of Egypt. But when Pharaoh told them his dreams, not one of them could tell them what they meant. Finally, the king's chief cupbearer spoke up. Today I have been reminded of my failure, he told Pharaoh. Some time ago you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night the chief baker and I had a dream, and each dream it had its own meaning. Verse 12. There was a young Hebrew with us in prison who was a slave of the captain. Excuse me, let me read that again. There was a young Hebrew man with us in prison who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he told us what each of the dreams meant. So that Hebrew man is actually referring to Joseph. So brothers who don't know the story, Joseph, he got sold into slavery. He ends up making it into Egypt, and eventually, the Pharaoh's wife accused him of sleeping with her, and he ends up being in prison, right? So, and then while he was in prison, he was interpreting dreams for, I think it was a baker, and I think I forgot what the other, oh, and a butler, right? So that's what it was. So just a little context if you're not familiar, right? And so verse 13, and it says, everything happened just as he predicted. I was restored to my position as cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole, excuse me. Okay, so verse 14. Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once, and he was quickly brought from the prison. After he shaved and changed his clothes, he went in and stood before the Pharaoh, right? So this in the precept I read earlier, a man who is essentially diligent, stands before kings, right? Right. So verse 15, and it says, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I have heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. It is beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied. But Yahweh Bashem Yahushai can tell you what it means and set you at ease. So Pharaoh told Joseph in my dream, he said, I was walking. As a matter of fact, I'll just stop at 16, right? So then again, he goes into the dream, and, essentially what happens is Joseph breaks down the dream, and they ended up having about, I believe it was 7 years of good harvest, and then they were going to have 7 years of like famine, essentially, right? So, but really the point I wanted to touch on in this particular chapter was the fact that even though Joseph was still in that low condition and in that lowest state, because despite the fact, we can see the parallels between Joseph and ourselves, right? Because we're kind of in that low condition, we're subjected to payments, and even though we're in this particular low condition, we still have this wisdom and knowledge that makes us of value to those who are around you, right? So anyways, I'll conclude the lesson right there. But as always, Yahweh willing, that this lesson made sense and this added up. I hope and pray this was edifying. I just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Makakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders who were at Millstone for teaching us his truth. Until next time, I say Shalom.